I'm a graduate student at Troy University, and I'm also a virtual intern with Education USA Kazakhstan. And today I'll just be going over the different types of tests for your graduate school admission process, and also English proficiency exams. And I'll be covering quite a bit of information. So as you see, like, I'll be covering kind of the types of admissions. So when you get admitted, people, how do I say this? There are different types of admission that maybe there are certain standards that need to be met. I'll go into this on the next slide, but I'll be talking graduate entrance exams. There's quite a few of them, and each one of them, they're different for different reasons, cover different topics. I'll be going over that, the registration process. So if you have any questions about any of these exams, at the end I'll have a question slide, and you can ask your questions then. I can answer them. I can go back and maybe even walk through the website of one of these exams and show you how I guess it works, how to find everything on that website. Next, I'll be talking about English proficiency exams, IELTS, TOEFL, and the Duolingo. So types of admissions. First, I guess colleges, universities admissions are becoming, I guess, a little bit more lenient, especially since the pandemic started, and a lot of people aren't able to go and take these admission tests. So, there have been universities that have like a test blind policy where they don't necessarily they don't factor in the scores into your admissions application. Similarly, there's the test optional policy that, they allow the applicants whether to submit the test scores as part of their application. And that's where it gets kind of tricky. If, let's say, should I submit the test score? You think it'll hurt or help my chances? I would go ahead and submit the test score if it is adequate, to get you into the university. Obviously, I think if it's a low test score, I wouldn't submit it. But also something you might want to consider is, I know funding is a big determinant in what college you choose on attending. So if you want to get a scholarship, you might have to submit these test scores. So just be wary of that. Also, something I just thought I should add is there's conditional and unconditional admission to university. Conditional admissions means that you're accepted to the university, but under certain standards, and you have to uphold these certain standards within your first semester, first year. For example, have to complete your first semester with a certain GPA, and then you can move out of this status. It's just kind of, it's kind of, I guess you can think it's kind of similarly related to the test optional or test blind policies, where maybe you're not meeting the exact standards, but they want to take a chance on you, and they're just going to put these boundaries in place to make sure you meet them and improve yourself while you're at the university for the first year. Next, there's unconditional admissions. These are when students are accepted unconditionally. They don't have any standards, I guess, they really have to meet, like the conditional admissions. Obviously, there are standards. Graduate students have to have a certain GPA, like a 3.0, be average. International students have to take so many classes a semester. So obviously there's standards, but not necessarily the standards that we talked about under conditional admissions. So the first admissions test I want to talk about is the GRE. And the GRE actually has, I guess, two different types of tests. They have the general test, and then they have subject tests, which I'll talk later on in the presentation. So it's offered through ETS, ets.org, which is, I guess, they provide fair education to the world, pretty much. Like, that's like their mission statement. They offer very different types of tests. They offer the GRE, TOEFL, and some other exams as well. And And I'll go through ETS, later when we have the question slide, just to make sure everyone kind of understands what ETS is. So it's a 4-hour exam, pretty long, but also all these tests have accommodations available. If you meet these certain accommodations, maybe you could get a longer time frame, any other type of testing accommodations. So anyways, it's considered the most accurate predictor of success by many graduate schools. So that's why it's accepted by most graduate schools accept this. Most graduate students take this test. And it's available on, computer at least 1,000 testing centers in 160 countries. So the availability, it's real easy to take this test. Some of these other tests I'll talk about later, they're not as available, all over the world. But it's also available at home. And this is a theme you'll see when I talk about all these tests, is you'll see there's, I guess, since the pandemic started, there more tests are being offered at home, but strict guidelines apply. So what I mean by this is, you have to have like a test proctor, have to have a camera, like a certain type of camera on your laptop. You even, I think, maybe have to download like a certain browser, certain software that shows, that you can't really leave the test, that you're not on another website searching for answers. So there's a lot of strict guidelines. Next, you can take the test up to 5 times a year, but the test is a little expensive. It's approximately like $205 to take the test. So that could be easily, if you take it 5 times, that's over, $1,000. It's easier just to prepare for, the first one, and just get it over with, out of the way. And also, offered with all these tests is you can send your test scores up to a certain amount of institutions for free. This on the GRE, you can send it to 4 institutions for free. There also, I put here a link that in the question section, I might go back over later if we have time, where each school, has a code that you enter. So the GRE, the testing board, the test is sent to that school. These codes can also be found on the university's graduate school admissions website, or you can contact one of their recruiters and they can help you. But also, usually, you just be able, if you take the test, you'll just usually be able to type in the name of the university, and that university and the code will pop up. Also, it's valid for 5 years. So let's say if you took, the test now, and 5 years from now in 2026, you may still be able to use these test scores. So it's good. Maybe something came up where you won't be able to go to graduate school right away. You can use these test scores and report them later on. So I think that's very useful resource. So what the general section covers is verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, analytical writing. Verbal reasoning, it's a lot about, I guess, kind of completing sentences, making sense of sentences, paragraphs, so on. Quantitative reasoning, when I think of quantitative, I just think of numbers. So this is a lot, more math, looking at tables, data, things of this nature. And then you have your analytical writing, which is more of your, maybe you have a prompt and you have to write like a short essay response. You have to make an argument, something along those lines. So I mentioned the GRE subject tests. So some schools may require you to take a subject test, but also, if your school doesn't require one, you might want to go ahead and take the subject test because it could help your application stand out. So if you're wanting to, go into like a chemistry, mathematics, physics, psychology program, this could certainly help your application stand out, especially if that program is very competitive. They used to offer 6 subject tests, but I saw where after this month, the I guess the biology and the literature English sections won't be offered anymore. So I found that very interesting. But you see here, they're all multiple choice, and these are a list of the topics that they cover. So to register for the GRE, you need to create an ETS account with ets.org, which when we have time later, I'll go through this and show you. And then if you go on, you can register through the GRE by following this link. So if you go to the ETS homepage, you'll see where you can click on it says GRE test. You can click on it, and then through that portal you can register. You can create an account, and you can log in and register for the test. The biggest thing is make sure your name on the account, all the personal information you enter on your account, and your ID are exactly the same. The ID you'll show at the testing center, because if anything's different, they won't let you take the test, and then that will be a very, very big issue. So making sure all that information is the same. Once you're logged into your GRE account, you'll be able to see where it says register, find a test center, dates. Then you can go ahead and select all this information. What kind of test you want to take. You'll have an option to take like GRE general test, subject test, what test center. I think you'll be able to search like Kazakhstan, and then it'll come up differing testing centers throughout the country, and then you'll be able to select dates as well. Then it'll proceed to like a checkout button, much like you would get with like online shopping, and then you'll be able to pay. Also on here, I have a GRE registration video, and if you ever need any information from any of my presentations, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll put my email in the chat later on. So like some study resources, the GRE website, which from the ETS, has a whole bunch of just like free resources to use. They also have resources that you have to pay for, but they're also a few $100s. They're pretty expensive. So I thought it was best to talk about the free resources. They have general test resources, but they also have like practice tests. But they also have specifically, practice tests for these different subjects. And also when I was putting together this presentation, I kind of noticed, I thought, graduate students are real busy. Maybe they're completing their undergrad, have a family, working. So I thought like, let me search like, applications on your phone that, the GRE might have. So I searched it, and right here are some of the, I guess, first results I got. They're all like 4.5, 5 stars rating, so very good. I don't know about you all, but it's a lot easier for me, just to pull up my phone and look through it rather than have my laptop out. It's a lot easier to use the app. Maybe you are somewhere where you can't, really study. So they have, little flashcards, little apps, games that you could play to help you prepare. So I thought that would be very useful information. So GMAT, this is another entrance exam, and it's created by the Graduate Management Admissions Council, and it's offered by MBA.com, and that's the website you go to create your account and register. It's about 3.5 hours long, but it's a little, pricey. It's $250, and it's specifically for business majors. So like what I mentioned earlier with the subject test, if you want to give your application, a competitive advantage, If you're applying for, a business degree, MBA, accounting, finance, management, the GMAT might be what you want to take. So it's, specifically, for business schools. So, you don't want to take this test if you are planning to major in, education, psychology, something like that. Showcases you're serious about business school, and there's 650 testing centers in over 114 countries. So it's, offered, a lot of places, but it's also offered at home. Like the GRE, as a result of the pandemic, a lot of people these testing centers were closed, people couldn't get there, so on. So all these tests are being offered at home. But strict rules apply. Same thing with the GRE. There's so much like protocols you have to take. And the websites, the MBA.com, they'll walk you through all these protocols that you have to do in order to take it at home on your own laptop. Consists of an analytical writing assignment, much like the GRE, and also multiple choice sections. And you can send your official score up to 5 different universities, 5 programs. And you can select, I said the 5 scores, but the 5 programs during the registration process. So I think that's, and you can send it to more than 5, but I think there's like, extra fee beyond 5. So the GMAT, like I said, the analytical writing assessment measures your ability to think critically and communicate your ideas. So, maybe you'll be provided like a prompt to write. You have to write like an argument, persuasive essay, something, I guess, to, be able to showcasing your writing skills, but also your ability to display what you're thinking on paper. Integrated reasoning measures your ability to analyze data, evaluate information presented in multiple formats. Quantitative reasoning measures your ability to analyze data and draw conclusions using reasoning skills. So I think this would be more like looking at, like table data from different businesses and coming up with the best solution result using this information. Verbal reasoning, another more just like reading examples. You'll be able to read and understand this material. I'm sure this is where it'll become helpful to get used to kind of that business vocabulary, because I'm sure, in the prompts, the questions will have very business, I guess, terminology that having to understand. So also, as of note, more than one answer is actually possible to GMAT questions. And if you miss one, the whole question is wrong. When I saw this, it made me anxious. Like that would drive me crazy if I was taking the GMAT. But if you want to go to business school and you're create that competitive advantage for yourself, go for it. But also something that's better about the GMAT, I think, is I saw where you can actually choose your exam order. So like these sections, you can choose which ones you take first, and so on. I think this would help me. In my case, I would probably do the easiest first, just because, or the one I'm most comfortable first, because I think that would make me more comfortable, would give me confidence towards the rest of the sections. And I can't remember, I think it's the GMAT, but it's either GMAT or GRE, where I saw the questions are, there's not a certain order set out for the questions. It's just based on what you answered before. So let's say if there's a question, the first question of the test, and you get it wrong, the next question will be easier. On the flip side, if you took a question and that question's you got that question right, then the next question will be harder. If you get that one right, the next question will be harder. So I think what I took away from this, if you just leave your test thinking the test is really, really hard, that might actually mean you did well. Yeah, and I'll answer some more chats after I finish. To register like the GRE, you have to create an account with MBA.com. In the account, then you'll have the option to choose rather for like online exam, like at home, or like the exam at the test center. Like I mentioned, make sure this identifying account information is exactly the same. Your test ID and what you add in the account. You're going to have to enter your personal information, verify, schedule exam, confirm, and pay. And the MBA account, I went through it. Is very organized. It'll be like at top, it'll show like a bar where different steps you have to complete. So it'll show your progress as you go along and do all this information, which I think is very helpful. Resources. I added here, it's not really a study resource, but it's a resource to use on the GMAT MBA.com website. They have like a FAQ section, which kind of gives an answer to all the questions students may have, like how to register, how should prepare, all these informations, because questions you may all have, I'm sure other students have had these questions as well. And these websites have usually put up a platform to help answer these questions. And this is usually on the FAQ section. And I should have put this in the GRE as well. They would have the same thing. Also, something, is start following their social media platforms, because, they'll post like maybe helpful resources to use, key dates to keep track of if you plan on registering and taking an exam, and so on. Even for me, I went on YouTube, and you can just Google GMAT exam, and there's a whole bunch of videos of people, official or students, like testimonials coming up of who have taken the GMAT, kind of just going over, like how it was formatted, what type of questions were on there, how to register, walking you through the registration process, a lot of information like that. But as far as study resources, the MBA.com, where you register for the GMAT, has a free exam prep. They also, and these look, I just kind of like practice tests. They also have, tests or prep you can purchase, but they have free also. And also, I found, the Princeton review. If you could just search like Princeton review GMAT preparation, the Princeton review has like a sheet of all these resources that would help you prepare, but they're like courses, and I saw some of them are like over $1,000, which I thought was really, really interesting. So I didn't necessarily want to add that to the presentation. I always want to add the free resources, because I know these tests in graduate school are as expensive, too expensive already. Next is Kaplan GMAT Prep. This was free. So you can search this. I added the URL link in here as well. And I'll be happy to give that to you all. If you have questions about it at the end, I can go back and we can walk through that. Next, more smartphone applications. Khan Academy is really good. GMAT Prep and Practice, and Manhattan Prep GMAT. So yes, I just went in the App Store. I searched these, and these are the ones, I guess, that had the best reviews that came up. So law school admission test, the LSAT. Yeah. So I mean, registration price is approximately, $200. So pretty similar to the other exams. And is the only test accredited by all ABA accredited law schools. And this kind of brings me to another point I want to make. When you're searching for graduate schools, or even I know there's someone preparing for undergraduate school, is looking at, is the school accredited? There's school accredit, like the college university accreditation, but there's also program accreditation, and making sure, the schools are accredited, because that makes accreditation is very important in higher education. I guess it helps the university prove that it's meeting a certain standard. And also, as far as employers, they know if students graduate from this program, they would have studied a certain standard. For example, for me, my program is accredited by, it's called CACREP, which is like the accrediting body for counselors, for counseling schools. And this will help me in the future. If I graduate, it's a lot easier for me to get a job because I've graduated from a CACREP accredited program. If I didn't, then it would be harder for me to get licensed and do all this other, just to get a job in general. So just make sure, looking at, what are the accrediting bodies for, engineering schools, and seeing if that program has that. So making sure, accredited just make sure that the university program is upholding a certain standard. So I would definitely, check that out. It's very, very important. So students who want to maximize their chances for admission and to be best prepared for law school are advised to take the LSAT. Yeah, so much like the GMAT, if you want to go into business school or the GRE Subject Test, taking LSAT will give you a competitive advantage. Because I do know law school is very competitive. A lot of people are starting to enter the law field and go to law school. So this is very, very important to take. Purpose of the LSAT is to test the skills necessary for success in the first year of law school, like reading, comprehension, reasoning, and writing. So you could say, the questions are, the sections, the topics are kind of, well, not the topics, but it's related to the other tests, GMAT and GRE, reasoning, writing, comprehension, but I guess it's a little bit more tailored to people who wanted to go into law. So a lot of more law terminology, certain maybe cases, something along those lines. Studies have shown the LSAT is the single best predictor of first year law school performance, even better than undergraduate grade point average. Okay, so like the other exams, in response to the pandemic, this test is being offered online, and it's actually called the LSAT Flex, and through June 2022. But strict guidelines apply, like making sure your laptop meets certain credentials, the test is being proctored, things like that. And it consists of two parts, the writing part, which is actually taken separately from the other part, which is the multiple choice exam. And the multiple choice exam, the reading comprehension, analytical reasoning, logical reasoning questions. So a lot like the other exams, just is just going to be a lot more tailored towards law type of, I guess, law reasoning, so to speak. So more about the LSAT, like every other exam, you'll need to create an account with the organization that's offers the exam. So this one is lsac.org, and you need to select the GD account, which is like the I guess law student account, and it's going to be pretty straightforward from then. It's just there's going to be a register button. It's going to go through location, date, testing center, select all information, and then you can proceed to check out. like I mentioned, with every other test, is making sure the registration name on the account and your ID are identical. Just because, they won't let you test if there's any differences. A lot of times, for example, like the LSAT Flex and these exams you take at home, there'll be a proctor maybe on the exam, which is someone, watching you take the exam, making sure you're not doing anything wrong, illegal, cheating. You'll just take the ID and kind of show it, hold it up to the camera and show them, I'm me. And the LSAT Flex, the online part, and writing registrations are the same process. So there'll be options in there to register for these exams as well. The account, the LSAT account, when you create your account, has lots of great information. For example, things to remember on test day, prep material, all that information once you create an account. And I believe once you create an account, you have to put your email in, and then the LSAT or LSC will start emailing you updates about maybe testing dates and so on. But like, resources I mentioned, the FAQ section, questions you may have, they've probably already been asked and responded to on the website. So just check these out. The social media platforms, they'll post a lot of key dates to remember, websites, helpful information to use. Like on the the account, they have prep courses, and each account is super helpful. Has a whole bunch of free information, materials for you to use. So that's really good. And also, like I mentioned, earlier, the Princeton Review, they have, LSAT study materials. They just kind of give a list of websites, things to use for the study for the LSAT. But a lot of this information, these resources are not free. And next, smartphone applications. The only one I could really found that was kind of had a good review was the LSAT Logic flashcards. So this might help you kind of get an idea, grasp of, kind of the terminology that they may use on the exam. So the MCAT, which is the admission test to go to medical school to be a doctor, this one's going to be more expensive. The registration price, they all differ, but it's approximately around like $320. And I'm not exactly sure. I'm sorry, I should have put in, kind of the equivalent to the Kazakh currency. But to register, you need to create a AAMC account, which is the governing, body over the MCAT. And once account is created, you will see email about when the test is offered. So this is not to mean like so I should have, I guess, indented this. It's just meaning that once you create your account, you'll start to receive emails from them about when the tests are offered, not exactly what test you have to take, because this test is not offered all the time. I saw where you actually cannot register for the test now because registration is closed. So it's very seems a lot more. No, I wouldn't say that, but structured, very strict exam, which it should be. I mean, I would hope my doctor took a very strict structured exam as well. Provide personal information in your account, and once you do all this, put all this information, then you'll be able to register. But like I said, you won't be able to do this currently because your registration's closed. So, when you go in, to register, you can select your location, date, testing center, and then check out. And so here are some of the topics. They go over biological, biochemical foundations of living systems, chemical and physical foundations, psychological, social, and biological foundation of behavior, and just critical analysis and reasoning skills, like the other exams do. On the MCAT, the website, the AAMC, they do have some free material to prepare for the MCAT, advice to give. They got mentioned, following them on your social media platforms, because they'll let you know like when registration's opening, things like that. And then the FAQ section, it has a lot of good resources as well, because I'm sure there's student testimonials, student questions, and MCAT, the governing, who's ever over it, has gone in there and answered those questions, and will point you and the answers pointed, I guess, in the right direction. And there are also some smartphone applications. Like I just searched MCAT prep, video flashcards, and so on. So there's a lot of smartphone applications, what I thought would be super helpful. Like I said, everyone is busy. So, if you're just sitting on the bus, something like that, you can just pull out your phone and start looking through it. Do a little bit every day, and that little bit becomes a lot. So English proficiency exams. So they're going to be required, by most universities. I said most, but pretty much all, because they don't really fall under the test optional test plan policy, because they're going to study in English. So the university needs to know that you can study in English. However, I know my university, I can't say all, but my university, if you don't meet the required score on these exams, they will either place you in ESL, which English Second Language program, and maybe you will spend a little time in there, and you can graduate and I guess leave and go enter your academic program. Or also, once you arrive to the university, they offer like an English test to take. And if you meet the required score on the exam, then you can be entered your academic program. But that's not all universities. So I would definitely, suggest, searching, looking up your own university to see if that's how that process works. So accepted tests, the tests I'm going to talk about are the IELTS, TOEFL, and Duolingo. So the IELTS, it's approximately $200. And I put approximately because, the price of the test kind of varies from location. So it's going to be offered, speaking of locations, offered, testing centers on paper or online. So you can do it, at a testing center online or do it on paper as well. It can be sent up to 5 schools for free. And it goes over listening, academic reading, academic writing, and speaking. The listening, reading, and writing sections are completed on the same day, but you'll need to register for another, on another day to do the speaking section, because you'll actually be speaking with someone. And this is also offered by 2, bodies. One of these bodies is the British Council, which that's what I when I went through this, because I've never had to register for the IELTS and looked at it, it's the one that seemed the most straightforward to me, easiest to register. So that's what I recommend, is registering through the British Council, which here's the URL for that. And you need to select once you select academic IELTS. There's 2 different types of IELTS tests. One's academic, and one is like work related IELTS, which is if you want to work in the United States or a country where English is the predominant language. So making sure you select academic. Then you select country, city, like where you want to take it, and select formats and dates for both tests. Yeah, so what I liked about the British Council registration process is it gave you the option to register one time, but select registrations select when you want to take, the reading, writing, listening section and the speaking section. And they look like they were in the same location as well. And then you'll just, book and register. So resources for the IELTS, free British Council's online IELTS practice test. So this is on the British Council's IELTS website. IELTS sample test questions, just following their social media platforms, just making sure they might provide, any type of helpful information. FAQ section. A lot of, students have questions about the IELTS, and usually, they've gone through to answer these questions, and this might be helpful as well. Also, smartphone applications. These are the ones that have the highest reviews. So I recommend these as well. So it can be taken at home or at a testing center. The version at home is actually called the TOEFL, TOEFL. So TOEFL can be taken at home or in a testing center. And the version at home is also called under a different lane, like the LSAT Flex was, and it's just called TOEFL, IBTS. So when you see this all it means is it's like the home online version of the test. If at home, the strict restrictions do apply. So, making sure that your computer is following certain guidelines, you're following these certain guidelines as well. And it's going to go over, reading, listening, writing, speaking, and, scores can be sent up to 4 institutions for free, which is not really for free because it's included in the registration process. But additional institutions, so if you want to send 5 scores to institutions, it'll be a $20 extra. And here I put a link to, the school codes, and you can find this information on your university's website. But also if you just kind of search on TOEFL website, you'll be able to find TOEFL school codes as well. So to register for TOEFL, it's going to be, like approximately $180. It kind of differs on location. And also the TOEFL is offered through ETS the same as the GRE. And this kind of confused me. So I actually had to contact ETS to figure this out. So you can use your same ETS account to register for both exams. The only difference is you just have to register through a different link. This is the link to go to register for TOEFL. And if you've registered for taking the GRE before or already have the ETS account, you can just enter your ETS account information from there into the ETS portal and then register for it, and vice versa. If you have an ETS account from taking the TOEFL, you can use that same ETS account to register for the GRE. And then from then, it's pretty easy to follow. Select register for a test, location, date, time, and you can enter, when you do the registration process, you can enter the school codes and where you want your test results sent. Helpful resources. So on, the ETS page has like a lot of helpful resources. It have free practice tests, free practice sets. There's the social media accounts, FAQ questions, and they also have like their own official apps. So I think that's like the TOEFL official app. They have a lot of information used to study. Also, it may be easier. I never tried it, but on the TOEFL official app, you can actually register through this app, and that might be easier. I know sometimes it's easier for me to navigate a app than it would be to navigate the website. So this is something I would check out as well. And lastly, the Duolingo. This one was probably the most interesting for me, because I actually took some of the practiced test questions, and it's all completed online, at home on your own computer. It can be completed within 90 days of purchase. So when you buy the test, download the test, you have like 3 months to go ahead and take it. It's approximately only 1 hour, so it's shorter than the other test. Because the exam is online, yeah, you'll need the proper technology, which for me might actually help. I know I tend to do better on things, remember things if I'm in a familiar setting. So maybe taking on your own technology would be helpful, but making sure that technology you have a secure internet connection. It's accepted by over 3,000 institutions, so it's widely accepted. And the format is it's 45-minute section to cover reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And the interesting thing about this is with the IELTS and TOEFL, these sections are, I guess, kind of separated, where this is the reading section, the writing section, the speaking, listening. On the Duolingo, this is not the case. So the questions might, I guess, contain more than one topic. So for example, reading and speaking. So it could be like a question like, read this sentence, and you would read it and the computer will record what you're saying. The reasoning behind this is just because when you speak English in your classes, you're not going to be using these topics like reading, writing, speaking, listening separately. It's all going to be integrated. You'll need to be able to hear what the teacher's saying, write down your notes, read what you wrote, and speak it. Listen to someone else writing at the same time. So, I mean, you'll be using these topics, just at the same time pretty much. But also, then it's going to have a 10-minute video interview. And this is just, I guess, video interview of you have with someone else. I actually didn't get to do this part, but also the questions are timed, which would make me very anxious. So you have a certain time limit to answer each question. And also the scores can be sent to as many universities as you want. And once you receive these results, like on your account, you'll be able to send these to whomever you like. To register, all you need to do is create an account with Duolingo, and I didn't put the URL in. I can add it to the chat, but it's just Duolingo, I guess, proficiency test. And create account, go and there's a button, click to register. Purchase the test, which is only $49. And once you purchase the test, you'll be able to take it. When you start the test, you'll have to show your ID to the camera. So making sure your ID and the information on the account is identical. And they also have a registration video, shows you how to do this. And this is posted on, they actually have a YouTube page. So if you want to go and watch Duolingo registration, it's on there. So resources, they have the practice test and access guide. It's free with an account from them. They have, the Duolingo FAQ page, their social media accounts, and they have some, smartphone applications. So I would search that as well. So that's it for, the content I had.